Hello and welcome to this afternoon taste challenge. It's cold. Oh man, it is December. All right, anyway, I like warm weather, I have two Kentucky straight rye whiskeys. Oh man, I thought I covered all my Kentucky rye whiskeys, and then I realized yesterday, oh, you forgot to do Woodford Reserve. I felt played. I felt silly, because it seemed like I always forget one. But I got a great deal on this a few years ago. These are half-size bottles. It was $6.99 a bottle, so that's $13.98 for a full amount of Woodford Reserve Rye, introduced in 2015. That is an amazing price, and I took advantage of it. Well, yeah, we're getting low now. No big deal. There's a lot of other stuff on the market. So it's a Brown-Forman brand. I did the Jack Daniel's Tennessee Rye yesterday, but that should have been done today, and then this one yesterday. But like I said, a little bit of a screw up there. It's 53% rye and 47% other grains. It's 45.2% alcohol. Oh, man. No age statement, so I don't know how long it's aged, at least 4 years. Now, the competitor, which is $13.49 for a full-size bottle, $13.49. No age statement from James B. Beam Distilling Company. Jim Beam Rye, introduced in 2024. Now, this might be the old 1938 to 2015 Jim Beam Rye that they just brought back with a new label. But I don't know if it is. They kind of allude to that on the website, but it's confusing. It's confusing. And in 2015, they introduced a new product called Jim Beam Rye Pre-Prohibition Style, which was 90 proof, and they made a big deal out of it. And then they just abruptly canceled it last year and replaced it with this. So when this thing showed up on the shelf, I was totally shocked. It's only 80 proof, 40% alcohol. So you can see that the Woodford Reserve is darker. It's like copper, and the Jim Beam is amber. I think that show. Yeah, you can see that on this video screen here. Amber, copper. 80 proof, 90.2 proof. What am I saying? 90.4 proof. I knew that was wrong as soon as I said it. They're both straight rye whiskeys, which means it can have no coloring or flavoring added. So the color you see is the actual color, no flavoring or coloring allowed. But if it's just a rye whiskey, if it just says rye whiskey, coloring and flavoring is allowed, in fact. All right, because I know I know some of them at least. Can't memorize everything. Here's Woodford Reserve Rye whiskey. They use a pre-prohibition style ratio of 53% rye. I haven't researched pre-prohibition. A balanced rye makes a balanced cocktail. Well, I'm not going to be doing any cocktail. And then there's all the tasting there, the flavor wheel. It's won awards, but not in the last 5 years. It's kind of okay, but what's the normal price for this? Well, it's certainly not $13.98. probably more like $30. The deal, I got a great deal. I can't lie. I'm not gonna lie. Here's Jim Beam Rye, limited edition. Now it's saying limited and more, so it's under their limited and more section, which is probably why I've never seen it in my town. Now they're showing a green cap, whereas my bottle clearly has a white cap. But if you keep looking at this, on the animated part, they show a white cap. So obviously they're doing it green or white, depending on the batches, I guess. That might be a code for them to keep track of it or something. I don't know. But anyhow, don't think it's going to be that big of a challenge because I can't see a 80 proof beating a 90.4 proof. Age statement, either one, but trying to find my cord for the lamp. Okay. See something here. All right. I had to repair that ring lamp because that animal back there chewed it in half this morning, which was a very nasty thing to do. I was definitely not happy. Whether it's going to hold, I don't know. It's probably going to come apart. But I thought I taped it together with the electric tape pretty well. But boy, I was hot. I was so aggravated with that animal. I was like, I should have kept you at the car. I should have left you at the car wash. Let somebody else adopt you. Just, forget your misery. But there she is playing and got fed again today. So happy for her food. I'm going to have to close my eyes because if I see that copper, I'm going to know what it is. Rye, grain, probably corn. Well, honestly, on the nose, it's about the same, rye and corn. Could it be some malted barley? Could be. What about wheat? Yeah, they could add wheat to it, as long as as long as it's 51% rye and higher, anything goes. And they could age it as long as they want, or as short as they want. But if they want it to be straight rye, they got to go 2 years, and both of these are at least 4 years. So at least 4, don't know how long. All right, taste time. Cheers. Hector in Los Angeles says, Ronald, so there is no Fandango Friday or Thunder and Thursday this week? No. Well, unless somebody else hosts it. If one of the other people decides to host it, well, yeah, we could do it. I could do it early. I could do it like 1 o'clock Los Angeles time, but then probably nobody else would want to join. But I could be fooled. Maybe I'll talk to some people, but I think it's probably not feasible, Oh, there is no way that's Jim Beam Rye. That's impossible. This is Woodford Reserve Rye. But I got fooled. That's Jim Beam Rye. I jumped the gun. Oh, well, see. Tampa Bay thought they were going to easily beat the Saints yesterday, but they got fooled. And I was watching the game, and they were like, oh, man, is this really happening? And I'm watching it and saying to myself, it's really happening. And you're dropping like a rock. And now you're tied for first place. Let me look again. Copper, yeah, copper. Amber, I'm totally shocked, really, to imagine, to think, to believe, to speculate that Jim Beam Rye could go and competitively challenge Woodford Reserve Rye would be like a fantasy. But yet, here I am. I'm doing the challenge. And what am I finding out? It's challenging it. We don't have to tell the Woodford Reserve people anything about this. We'll keep it a secret. No need to spread that around. But I'm really shocked. Okay, you looking for your little, you knocked it under the door? Okay, let's get it. No, it's not under there. It's not there. You must have knocked it somewhere else. You must have put it somewhere else. You tore the toy apart. All right. Really shocking. I gotta say, I am surprised. Like sometimes, you say, "Well, I'm not surprised," but I mean, actually, in this case, I am shocked. Okay, let me give it some more taste. I got enough to taste. Let's see. Funny thing, that's why you do the blind taste test, because if you look at the label and you say Jim Beam, what's going to automatically be in your mind? In your mind, you're going to say, oh, it's cheaper. I know I'm not going to like it as much. That's understandable because you see in it, you're looking at the label. But then you do it blind. Okay, now I can see, but not as much as you think I could see, and not as much as I thought I would see. I can see this is a little higher proof, 45.2% alcohol versus 40. But it's not as much as I had believed it would be. It's very mellow for a stronger whiskey. Now I know the beer companies will say a disclaimer: the alcohol by volume is approximate, is not a definitive number. So, like if you buy a beer that's 5.9, it might really be 6.1. It might be 5.7. Could change batch to batch. There's no way they got time to go through that each time. The U.S. government is like, yeah, as long as it's close in the ballpark, we're not worried about it. So could that happen with whiskey? I don't know if they give that much clearance or leniency on it. But amazing, really amazing. Just like candy corn. Now you say it's a rye, it's a rye. Why is it candy corn? Why would I taste candy corn? I don't know. Now, that's the perplexing part. But it could be 47% corn, but I don't think it's all just 2 grains. I think it's like rye, corn, and malted barley, what I've heard from sources. They're probably right, but they're not definitive. They're not unimpeachable sources. They're not primary sources. Jim Beam Rye is a real winner, because I tell you what about Jim Beam Rye. I've been doing this rye whiskey and challenges for the last week. I don't get it right every time. I don't get it wrong every time. I get it right most of the time. But I'll tell you what, this thing really holds its own. It really battles. Got a lot of character to it. And no, I'm not on their payroll. I don't secretly work for them. I wish I did. I do a Jim Beam video about every day. But maybe twice a day. The money was right. But I wouldn't pass it over I mean, if you go to your local liquor store that has a good amount of rye whiskeys, which mine doesn't, none of mine do. But if you live in a bigger city and you see Jim Beam Rye, it might be the lowest priced product on the shelf, and you might say, "Oh, I don't want to try that. That's going to be a joke." Believe me, it is not a joke. There's no joke involved here. This is a serious, good, well-made product. I don't understand why they're doing it limited, but speculatively, I think maybe they figure it's not going to be a big seller regardless of whatever they do. They might be thinking rye, no matter who makes it, is a niche brand, niche type of whiskey. So why put too much into it? Well, if that's the case, that it's sort of nichey, not real big seller, no matter who makes it or what the components are, or the ABV, the proof. I can understand that. They got some beers that are rye IPAs, rye this and that. They kind of sort of popular, but they're definitely not real popular. So yeah, that has to be considered. So anyway, well, it's a shock, a very big shock, huge shock, really, to think that Jim Beam Rye could compete against Woodford Reserve and get me confused, but it did. It happened live on the air. I'm not going to delete the video. Now, I think, but I could be wrong, but I think that's all the Kentucky and Tennessee rye whiskeys. I don't know of any Missouri rye, but they might be out there. Now I'm going to bring in Indiana rye. Indiana rye on Indiana night. Well, yeah, a lot of rye whiskeys made in Indiana. I've got Templeton, 4-year age. I've got Bullet, as people call it, Bullet, Indiana rye. I've got George Dickel rye, which is made in Indiana. So I've got 3 of those. One is bottled in Tennessee. One is bottled in Kentucky, I think. I think it's Kentucky. And then one is bottled in Iowa. But it doesn't matter. They're all coming from the same distillery in Indiana. And they're all basically the same product. So I'll be doing like a triplicate video. I'll be doing like this one that's kind of like the other 2 or 3 or 5, depending. And then the other and the third one versus Jim Beam. So how is Indiana rye going to compete against Kentucky rye? I think it'll be comparable. We're talking about the very bottom of Indiana, like literally on the riverbank, but it is in Indiana. Then it'll be more interesting, I suppose. We'll go to Canada. I've got Hunter rye, Canadian Hunter rye. Very hard to find. Very hard to find. Very difficult to find. But I found it in Arlington, Texas, of all places, for $11.99 for a bottle. Couldn't believe it, but I found it. I've got Alberta Premium rye, 100% rye, 100% rye, no other grains, which is from a famous company, Alberta something distillery, but it's in Alberta. It's well known. They do some vodka too, actually. But and then I've got some Scotch rye, Scottish rye from Scotland, which is even more shocking, but it's there. I've got it on the shelf. Johnny Walker High Rye, if you can believe that. And then I think that'll close it out. And then we'll be going into bourbon. Get ready for the bourbon. Get ready for the bourbon. All right. We all take care. And I'll see y'all soon. God willing. Bye-bye, everybody.